hot topic of conversation amongst the AFC North right now, Ravens GM. So just a little backstory. Andy Weidl spent 11 years in Baltimore before he went to Philadelphia. He has relationships with a lot of people over there, including their GM, Eric DaCosta. DaCosta said a week ago or so to Mike DeFabo of The Athletic that his one goal for Andy Weidl is to help him get out of Pittsburgh as fast as humanly possible, which makes a lot of sense. The guy built the Eagles, comes to the Steelers. Built the Eagles twice, essentially, comes to the Steelers. People have very high expectations for this guy and what the Steelers can do under him as the assistant GM. But the question remains, how long is the shelf life here? Returned home to work in Pittsburgh. So you got to remember he's a hometown guy. He loves that he returned home to the Steelers. He's got history here. But somebody's going to offer him a GM job. Do you think it's a 1-year deal? Do you think it's a 2-year deal? Do you think you have a couple of years if you're the Steelers to get something done with this guy? Or do you think that the lifespan of Andy Weidl as the Steelers assistant GM might be very, very short?
Yeah, I can't imagine he's sticking around for long, unless the Steelers want to open up their GM job. Like, this guy's deserving of one, and he's going to do what every person in the world does. Like, every person with any sense of any like shred of ambition is looking towards their next job. That doesn't mean he's doing his current job poorly, but it means that he's looking to step up. He's looking to prove himself. He knows his worth, I think. He wants that big job. And I think as soon as once one opens, there's going to be people who want Andy Weidl and places where Andy Weidl wants to go.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that puts the Steelers in a tight situation because they want to build with this guy. And he's got, if you read the Athletics article, which I don't know what it's titled, but it's about Andy Weidl. You should go find it out. Mike DeFabo is the author. People really break down how this guy scouts differently than almost anybody in the NFL and how he sees things differently and how he has relationships that are different than most people in the NFL with these prospects. I think that is just so valuable to a team like the Steelers who are trying to build something right now and who have the building blocks to build something big. Puts a very, very tight window on this team to say, hey, let's get enough pieces here with this guy, use him as much as humanly possible because he's going to leave, and he's probably going to leave rather soon. There's also been reports I saw, and I'm not going to toss a name out here because I've heard some things, but there's been a claim, I will say a claim, that the Steelers are almost ignoring Andy Weidl in his scouting process and just to know what the Steelers hierarchy is, just to know what the ranks are. It starts at the top with Art Rooney. He makes all the final decisions, but he just makes the call. It goes Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, then probably Andy Weidl, and then the scouts. Do you think that there's any truth to the Steelers ignoring Andy Weidl and his scouting process?
Be pretty dumb if they did, right? Like, I'm not, right? Like, I'm not, yeah. I don't want to tell NFL front offices how to do their jobs, but the proof is in the pudding with this guy. Like, if you're not listening to him, I feel like you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Yeah. I don't think that when I heard the claim, I was taken back, but I've also heard that the claim was skeptical for lack of a better word here.
Well, I also wonder how much of that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like how much of that is Art Rooney kind of taking up a lot of air and a lot of space in the war room and stuff like that? Like, is Andy Weidl the only one being ignored? Is Art Rooney having a really, heavy hand in who the Steelers draft, which, wouldn't be a shock, but is this an Andy Weidl specific thing, or is this a kind of organizational thing where Art Rooney's taking up a lot of air?
I wonder how much air Art Rooney actually does take up. That's a good point because he does make those final calls, but I don't know how much he's sitting there going, oh, okay, I want that guy. So we're taking that guy. And I've heard this about this guy because he doesn't go out and scout things. He doesn't go to the NFL Combine. He doesn't go to, the Senior Bowl. He doesn't go to the pro days. He doesn't do any of that. He just makes the final call But I would imagine that he just kind of sits around and then somebody's like, okay, well, here's the names. Who do you want? And he says, oh, okay, I want Najee Harris. That's the guy that I feel confident about.
Mhm.
I think that there has to be an expectation where Andy Weidl is down the food chain. He's not the top guy, and he can't be looked at the top as the top guy. You hired Omar Khan to be your general manager. You have to trust Omar Khan. Mike Tomlin has been around forever and has built Super Bowl teams. You have to trust Mike Tomlin. Andy Weidl's the new guy. He's the new guy who, he's got great experience, and hopefully the Steelers take advantage of that. But in the grand scheme of things, he's a rookie in Pittsburgh, and nobody is going to look at him and say, hey, you get first call on any of this. You get third call on a lot of this. And if your opinion matters enough, we'll go with it. But if not, which I also think hurts the Steelers in the long run, because you should, I mean, I think personally, Andy Weidl's got more of a resume than anybody in that room. So listen to him. He knows how to do this. Like, he's built teams. He's got the Eagles offensive line that won the first Super Bowl is here with the second Super Bowl. The Steelers have been looking for an offensive line for 6 years now. Maybe you should listen to the guy who knows how to build the trenches. The Eagles defensive line was there for the first Super Bowl. Now they're back and somehow better for the second Super Bowl. The Steelers off our defensive line, they have Cam Hayward, and they've been digging and searching as hard as possible to find the rest of these pieces. Maybe you listen to the guy who did this. Maybe he should be higher on the list than it's reported that he is.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about there should be an expectation that he is down the food chain. Like, whether or not he should, it's not unreasonable for the GM and the head coach and the owner to say, no, we kind of get the first call on this. There's a reason you're the assistant GM. This is our team, not completely shut him out, but say, if there's a disagreement, we're deferring to someone further up the food chain.
Yeah. And if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm nervous about two things. I'm very nervous about the Cleveland Browns situation, because I think that's going to fall off the rails rather quickly. And I think everybody in-house is going to be gone. You got to worry if there's an opening there. And DeCosta is not going anywhere, but you never know. You just don't want Andy Weidl to end up in the AFC. You just don't. You do not want Andy Weidl to end up in the AFC. And you want him here long enough that you could utilize him enough to build something and then leave. If not, total waste of space, total waste of money, total waste of time and effort. And you just kind of gave away a boatload of your secrets to a guy who's going to go make a different team better. So it's a tough situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but for the time being, if they utilize it correctly, could be worth their time. But we'll see what it is.